Hey everyone, this is Shahid for Pakistani American Creative Show. In today's episode, we're going to be talking with Randee Ramsey of Southwest Alternate Media Production and so many things that she has done so far. So let's turn our attention to Randee. Randee, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm just so uh, happy that this event is taking place and we're able to bring as many people as possible into this fold of films and what films actually turn out to be. So, Randy, tell our audiences who probably don't know about you because we very seldom talk with these many diverse cultures, right? So, give us some sense of when did you start? How did you start? You lived in Kuwait also.
hmm
I grew up in Saudi Arabia, so I have some connection over there. But tell us, how did Randy came to what she is today?
So, currently, I'm the executive director of Southwest Alternate Media Project. And as a little kid growing up in New Jersey, certainly I didn't think I'd end up in Kuwait or Texas.
Yeah.
It certainly was not at the top. I have an undergraduate degree in theater, and I was a real theater kid, and I loved it, and that was my jam. And I was a production stage manager off Broadway, summer stock. I did a couple of touring shows, and then gave it up for the real job that we all thought that we needed to have.
Hmm.
And I had the little quarter life crisis when I was 30, and at the encouragement of a lot of people, left my job working for the city of Elizabeth, New Jersey, as an assistant public information officer.
Oh, wow.
And everybody said, nobody leaves civil service
Yeah,
jobs. Nobody.
yeah.
And I did. I quit and I put my cat and everything I owned in my Toyota Tercel, which is like the size of this chair. And I drove for 6 months around America. And I ended up in California out of gas, out of money, in front of my friend's apartment. And I applied to California Institute of the Arts, where I
Ah,
got a Master of Fine Arts in directing for theater, video, and cinema. But, I went to see Jaws when I was 7.
right,
I always
right.
loved old movies. That was always my jam. So, and films were something that my grandfather and I shared.
Hmm.
Um, so I've always loved the films, I've loved movies, but I never thought about doing it until I just, imploded my whole life and ended up at CalArts. And then fell in love with the process
Ah,
and was lucky enough to be in a place where we did a lot of avant-garde and non-narrative film, which led me to foreign films,
right,
foreign
right,
for
right.
Americans.
For Americans, yes.
But lyrical storytelling is more common overseas.
Hmm.
Non-narrative films are very popular in other parts of the world. So then I began to explore um, African films first. And it's weird because I went Africa, then France, which is usually people go the other way. But I had a professor who was very, very deeply knowledgeable about Nigerian film. So I went down that whole rabbit hole. Then I got into the French New Wave, and everybody loves Agnes Varda. I don't know how you couldn't. And then I started looking further and further afield. But it wasn't until I lived in Kuwait that I started to really love Indian and Pakistani cinema
Mm.
and, really looked at it as just so endemic of the culture. And you
Right,
learn so much about other cultures from their media.
right,
So
right.
it was great for me artistically and also being so ignorant and American and not knowing the world.
Absolutely, because I think America in itself is a big world with so many states and so many nuances of Texans versus New Yorkers versus Chicago folks and things like that. So how long you stayed in Kuwait and what were those interactions with the locals and your opening to the Indian and Pakistani communities?
So I was in Kuwait nearly 5 years.
Okay,
And I went there when my daughter was, less than a year old.
right.
My son was like 4. And so we all grew up together learning about it. So my
Yeah.
kids are much more worldly and knowledgeable. Like my son's favorite thing is Ethiopian food. My daughter's favorite thing is a curry. She loves a curry more than anything in the world. And they just grew up with that. So didn't we came back to America and it was like chicken nuggets, what's this garbage? I want a really good lamb curry. What is the matter with you? And they would look at me and go, or we'd go to a Mexican restaurant. And my son would order cabrito, and they'd be like, that's goat. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, and it's baby goat, which is
Yeah.
delicious. And they would just look at us, and I would think, well, thank goodness, because I grew up like in such 1970s, 1980s, like white America, that I was just lost. So for me, I went there and I was afraid and I was scared and I didn't know anything and I didn't know the language. And I mean, Arabic is hard to read if you don't
Hmm.
know.
It's from the other
The
side of the
other
page.
side, and I had no idea, but everyone was so welcoming and lovely and willing to work with me and to help me and teach me. And I found so many great teachers in the culture, and I got to study the Quran a bit, which I thought was really amazing. But I will tell you that a lot of my husband's colleagues were Indian and Pakistani, and they just educated me right up.
Yeah.
And, Fadia taught me how to make samosa from scratch,
Oh, wow.
which I was amazed because I thought they were delicious and I knew that they were a lot of work. And then I made them and I went, why would anyone do this? This is hard. And they're like special occasions. And I said, fair enough. But it was a great, great community. So that's when I got really interested in, sharing their music and sharing their movies. And I would ask and they'd be like, oh, but it's subtitled. And I'm like, well, I can read. Like I can read. It's not hard. Like I'm not afraid.
Right, right,
And I fell in love with Bollywood because who doesn't love that? But
right,
I also fell in love with the other side,
yeah,
which is small dramatic narratives that challenge stereotypes, that challenge the norm. Indian indie films,
right,
because there
right.
is an independent film movement. And when I tell my students that when I'm teaching, they're always, really? There's more to Indian film than Bollywood? Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that your student asked. I get Indians and Pakistanis asking me,
Yeah.
what is an indie film? Because every film that we featured in our festival, they thought this film is going to come on AMC, and this film is going to come on Cinemax, or this film is going to be on, Netflix. So I had to kind of tell them that these are not necessarily those films. Films is a, but I think our community, the Indians and the Pakistanis, they have a lot to learn, and that learning curve is pretty huge when it comes to these kind of things. But so do tell us about your teaching experience. How and you often include these world movies into your classes. So how's that experiment going?
I know it's great. I've always included world cinema in my classes because I think that one of the things that America does, and that so many people don't know that we do, is that we really steal the best ideas from other cinemas and then we reinterpret it and make it our own. Hi, Quentin Tarantino, I'm talking to you. Because without Hong Kong cinema, there would be no Quentin Tarantino. And
Exactly.
he'll say that. I mean, he said that in interviews. Like, that's just, but, if we think about modern American cinema, it does always have elements of world cinema in it.
Mm.
So I include like Sharne, which is not a Bollywood film, which is an Indian film. That's in my current curriculum. Pather Patchouli, which is really a Bengali film. I mean, I include these because, first of all, they're great examples of storytelling. And anytime I can get my students to look outside their own personal experience at the
Yeah.
world, I feel like I'm giving them a gift, not just as an artist, but as a human being. And they're all universal themes. I mean,
Yeah.
these are all, I always say that if you look at any film artist, any writer, any director, they're all working out their stuff. Every Steven Spielberg film is, I really want people to love and accept me for who I am. Just every single one. You can find it in every single one. If you look at Quentin Tarantino's films, they're all about being the outsider in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Right. Right.
And I think that that's universal. I think that that crosses cultural boundaries, nationalities, religions. Those things are for everybody. And the more that we see that in everybody, the less we other anyone.
Yeah.
And I think
No,
that's,
well said. Well said. Tell us about Southwest Alternate Media. and then tell us about your upcoming Houston Media Conference, because this is the second year for
Second
it?
year.
Absolutely.
So Southwest Alternate Media Project is nearing its 50th anniversary.
Wow.
We were founded by James Blue and Ed Huglitz in 1977 when video became widely available. And they talked very much about citizen filmmakers and democratizing film.
Right.
And I think if you look at everybody has a film camera in their pocket now, and you think about what happened with the George Floyd videos
Right.
and all of that,
Right.
those are citizen filmmakers. We're
Yeah.
telling stories. And one of the things that we want to do is that if you're going to be a filmmaker, if you're going to be a storyteller, if you're going to be this next generation that uses all this technology, one of the things we want to do is help you have the skills to do it well. So we used to host something called Business of Film, which was all about the business of independent films. Through long term and the pandemic, we just stopped presenting it. We brought it back last year in conjunction with the Houston Cinema Arts Society as our presenting partner. And it's the Houston Media Conference because you absolutely have to cover social media, podcasting. You have to cover video, you have to cover film because all of that is media. And look, social media is not going anywhere. I would just love for the video and lighting and sound quality to be better. That's all. If you're going to do it, let's make it good.
Do it right.
Do
Yeah.
it right. So the second conference is this coming week. It's August 23rd through the 25th. Our keynote speaker is Sergio Lira, who left A24, who is a producer who left A24 because he wanted to tell Latino stories. And he was born and bred in Houston. And left a dream job to pursue his dream of telling these stories. So we're going to screen his film in the summers on Friday night. It won the jury prize at Sundance. And we're super thrilled to have him. And then we have 30 hours of programming. We have a mixer on Friday night. We have an after party on Saturday night. And we also have sessions on embracing social media, how to become an influencer, podcasting, video podcasting. Julie Newlin is going to teach actors, video podcasters and social media folks some DIY lighting with stuff you have in your house.
Yeah.
She's going to teach people how to make lights out of pie tins because she's
Wow.
amazing. We have Jim Amengolda coming in from California. He's the showrunner from School of Rock. Courtney Daniels has written a book on indie film. She'll be there. We have Orlando Briones and Filmatic. We have a huge Brandon Bond, who is a producer. Jaylene Mack from MPAC, also a producer.
Yeah.
So, and Greg Carter, who's Fifth Ward famous, and just a really great lineup of speakers on every media topic imaginable.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know so much that we need to talk about, and but unfortunately, with today's timing and everything, we're going to have to end it here. But with this note that there will be a second one with you and me, and we'll go deeper into these topics and these subject matters because this all needs to be known by not just a lot of people, but a lot of diverse people. Houston is becoming ever more diverse than ever before. So,
which is why you're on one of my panels.
Thank you very much.
Literally talking about, because this is very important to Southwest Alternate Media Project. Swamp has been talking about this since 1977, amplifying the diverse and unique voices of Houston. That is what we're all about. And we talk about diversity, lots of people have talked about it. Part of what I wanted this panel that we're having at the conference to accomplish is what are things that people can actually do?
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of people talking.
Right.
I want to see those numbers. I want to see that needle move. For sure. And Houston is the place to do it.
And I want to do it. Well, thank you very much for your time. And I think my phone is now ringing because we're needed on the other side of the wall.
Of course.
So we'll continue this again. Thank you very much for stopping by.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you.